Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be talking about Metallica's And Justice for All. This is part of the Remembering series, which it's been a long time since I added anything to this particular series. Okay, so a couple previous installments that you guys may have seen or may not seen, I'll put the link in the description, or I will put a card for you guys so you can check those out along the way when you're watching this one. Slayer's Divine Intervention, that was a very important record for me. My early years of playing guitar, just getting into music, getting into heavy music. And the other one was Cannibal Corpse's Vile. That was just another turning point as far as bringing my guitar playing out even further than where I had been, and just really wanting to push myself as far as my technicality and my skill. But this album right here, Metallica's And Justice for All, this was the very first metal record, pretty much any album for that matter, that I ever purchased. I remember, so this was like back in around 93, 94 when I first seen this at Kmart. I was trying to accumulate some allowance money so I could pick one of these cassettes up, because back then, I mean, that's all I had was just a tape player in our living room. I didn't even have my own CD player yet or anything. I think I was like around 9 years old, I think. And I just remember watching Beavis and Butthead. I mean, a lot of you guys that are my age, I'm 38 years old. I was born in '83. I was watching Beavis and Butthead back then, and I happened to see Metallica's one video come through, and the overall aggression of the guitar playing, the speed picking, and just how heavy and distorted the guitars were. It really clicked with me, and I got hooked into Metallica right off the rip when I was watching that video, just listening to the music. I was like, man, this is what it is what happened with this album, why this touched me so much is so right around that time was when my parents got divorced, and I had been living with my mom and my older sister for about a year or so. But before all that took place, when my parents were still happily married, my dad was in a cover band, and they would play in our basement. We had a finished basement, and they built a whole jam room, practice room down there. Had all egg cartons stapled all over the walls, this and that. And he played with his buddy Tommy, who played drums, and my Uncle Frank, which was a killer freaking guitar player. He is on YouTube actually, but he just doesn't do a whole lot. He really should, but he doesn't really do too much with it. But my Uncle Frank played just like Jimi Hendrix. He took a regular guitar and flipped it around, and played it backwards, played everything backwards, and he could solo. He could rip guitar solos with the pick in his mouth, and it was the most inspirational thing I had ever seen. And pretty much around that time, I remember the song that really clicked with me as far as hearing a distorted guitar was ZZ Top's LaGrange. That song right there, I always wanted my dad and the rest of the band to play that song for me. I really got into that. And Deep Purple, Smoke on the Water, just those were the beginnings of stepping stones of distortion guitar. They had that overdrive sound to it, and I really liked it. It really clicked with me. And then my parents get divorced, all the yelling and shit's going on in the house, and we get separated, or they get separated, and everybody goes their own way. I go with my mom and my sister, and I think at that point, with just all the yelling and my mom favoring my sister's side and me always getting yelled at for nothing, and just all that negativity, all that toxicity in the environment really created some kind of just a light bulb went off in my head when I would hear this heavy music. Man, that music sounds just like how I feel inside. So it was when I heard Metallica on Beavis and Butthead, and then I got introduced to all these other bands from Beavis and Butthead. It was but Metallica was the one that stood out, because that was one of the first ones that I saw that video, and it's just wow, I want to do that. So that really encouraged me and made me want to play guitar. And then, not to mention, obviously, Cannibal Corpse that I talked about in a previous video, Remembering Cannibal Corpse Vile. When I saw them on Ace Ventura, when my dad took me to see that movie when I was a little kid, that was just another layer of that. But at that point, I think I still wasn't quite grasping it, but I definitely got it once I saw that Metallica video on Beavis and Butthead. So fast forward a little bit, that's when I was really trying to just listening to local radio, hoping I'd hear some Metallica and just jot down, what song is this, and that kind of thing. You got to remember, there was no internet or all that back then, and I was just a little 9-year-old kid, but I needed this music. I needed more of that sound. So I just remember walking through Kmart. I think my mom, she was shopping there when Kmart was still around, and I was flipping through the tapes, the cassettes, and I didn't have any allowance money yet, and I was just like begging my mom to buy this for me. Oh, that's devil music. I'll never buy that for you. It's funny thinking about that right now. It really is compared to all the shit that we have out now. But yeah, I just, I kept trying to encourage her, convince her that, nothing bad's going to happen. I just want to learn the music and I want to listen to it. And at one point, yeah, I was able to save my allowance money up, accumulate that, and she took me back up there, and I was able to buy my first cassette tape, which that was only copied. Like, they didn't have any of the other albums in stock. They just had Metallica's and Justice for All. But I remember I wanted that song. I wanted to hear, because I remember it from Beavis and Butthead, the one video. I wanted that album first, because that was the first taste of Metallica as far as at my age recognizing that. Because thinking back, I think my dad had a little bit of that playing on the radio when he used to restore the Dodge Challenger when he was working on that car when I was little in my parents' garage. And I just wasn't old enough yet to really understand or know what the hell was going on. But at that point I did, and yeah, that was my first cassette, and dove right into that sucker, and I just worshipped that album. I mean, that was kind of the material that I was trying to learn without even knowing how to play guitar yet. I mean, I was self-taught, so I had nobody else show me the ropes of like how to hold a pick or how I should have my elbow across, like the body of the guitar, how I should position the pick, where my hand position should be, any of that shit. I had to learn all that on my own, and I would always just, rewind back and forth on my VHS tape and just see how they were doing it. And I would just try to mimic what Kirk and James were doing, and it just developed into what you guys see today. I do pick with quite a bit of force. I'm kind of like, I always relay this message, Jeff Hanneman. That's where I learned a lot of that too. Because that was like the next band that I was getting into was a lot of Slayer, and just watching how Jeff was picking like that, and I did the same thing. Like, all right, that must be how you do it. So followed in Jeff's footsteps, and there's a lot of other players that play just like that. That's just their style, and that happened to turn into my style as well. So I've stuck to it all these years. It works well for me. So yeah, I continue to play in that way. But I mean, more like that album, I kind of skimmed through the first few tracks. I wanted to hear Metallica 1 again, and I remember the first time I played it on the cassette, it was a lot longer than I remembered, because obviously they got to jam, they got to try to edit and cut a certain amount of video on the Beavis and Butthead so they can keep kind of moving through these videos. And I just remember, like, I was getting ready to headbang to the part that was coming up, and it wasn't there. It was like another section of a verse, and then the chorus again, and then like a middle section before it actually went and started going with the faster picking and the double bass of Lars. So that kind of caught me off guard. But that album, I just worshipped and enjoyed the shit out of that, and just always sitting down trying to learn how to play that kind of music. And from there on, I think my next Metallica album was Ride the Lightning. That copy happened to be at Kmart, so I picked that cassette up. And then I think I went to Master of Puppets was the next one, and then it was like I just said Ride the Lightning. No, it was Kill 'Em All. That one I remember it took me a little bit to get my mom to buy me that one, because obviously what it said, and see a hammer with a bunch of blood. So that was a little bit tricky, but yeah, Metallica is just like a lot of you guys out there, Metallica is a very, very important band, not only for you guys, but for myself. Some of the other bands out there that were coming, around in the 80s and the early 90s, I'm definitely going to talk about in, some future installments of this. But this album right here is what changed it all. And this was the gateway drug pretty much to getting into all the kind of music that I listen to today, because Metallica was like me getting just my feet in the water, and then as it became the deep end, it just got heavier and heavier and faster, and that's what I wanted. I just wanted more of that aggressive sound, because I identified and connected so much to, that sound and what was going on in my life with my parents being divorced, and just that whole idea of the separation, and then like feeling kind of isolated. You're kind of like by yourself now, and your grades kind of suffer, and some of the people you're hanging out with are kind of like, the negative people. You just kind of gravitate towards that when you're basically, in pain because you're not happy with what happened in life. So yeah, I really identified with that music, but it saved my ass from you know, getting myself into trouble or things like that. You know, because I still had my my smarts of you know, being raised properly, and anytime that I felt like I started like getting in too much trouble, I would be disciplined for it, which is what this world needs. I mean, that's a whole different discussion, but the music was there for me, basically, you know, because I picked up a guitar, all that pain, all that negativity, those feelings I had inside from everything I was going through, and these challenges in life that I was going through as a kid, as I was growing into, you know, like a young adult and going through my teenage years and everything. Being able to be the introduction of this music along with my guitar playing, it definitely saved my ass. So I think that's going to do it for this video, this installment of Remembering. So this was Remembering Metallica's and Justice for All. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, smash that like button, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Appreciate you guys. Take care.